Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do a kid's landscape using your three primary colors, yellow, blue, and I'm using a pink. You could use a red. And I'm going to show you how to use these colors to do a landscape. You can either do blue, yellow, blue, pink, or pink, yellow. And you know that those colors will make your secondary colors green, purple, and orange. So you'll need black and you'll need white. And to do this landscape, you only need black, white, and your two primary colors that you intend to use. Use a basic brush, and you're going to use a stick from the yard. Get your kids to go out and look for a stick that they can use for their tree trunks. And then you'll want a sponge. This one was more rounded off. I cut it up and gave it more of a rougher edge. It'll blend better, and it's nice and soft, so that'll help. And you can use any kind of sponge you want in this department, but it just kind of smooths out the sky that you're going to do. You'll need something that has a hard surface, and you can paint some white paint on that's circular so that you can make your moon or your sun, depending on what you want to do. And of course you'll need a canvas, and you can use another type of brush if you want, or you can use a toothbrush, or you can use a natural sponge for certain areas if you want to blend or not. I like all of it anyway. On this pun, I'm going to use yellow and blue, which is going to make green, and I'm going to show you how to start this. And of course, when you're dealing with the sun, you want the brighter color at the closest part to your horizon. So we're going to put yellow first. And you can put less paint if you want, if you're trying to conserve. And you put blue at the top. Now the other thing you can do is you can skip the white in the middle if you want a darker sunrise, sunset. What we're doing is trying to do a silhouette foreground and a beautiful bright background sky. Now what you want to do is you either want to start from the bottom to the top or the top to the bottom. Depends on how you want. I want to start at the bottom and work my way to the top, and you want to go side to side, nice and smooth, side to side. Think Karate Kid, right? And you're just going to go this way all the way up, making sure you cover the full canvas, kind of blend, and then you go up into the blue, side to side, making sure you get the full canvas. This is important when teaching your children this, okay? And so we're just going to come back down and then go back up. And make sure your canvas is completely covered, okay? Now here's where I bring out my sponge, and this is where I go in and I start patting the canvas. And what this does is it helps soften the sky and blend it better. And I'm just going to do this all the way up and all the way back down again, and you'll see how it changes the look of it just doing that. And as I said, you can use any kind of sponge you want. You can use a natural sponge. You can use what they do, makeup brushes if you'd like, to teach your kids with. Anything you want to teach your kids with. This is just kind of stuff that you can use around your house to teach kids how to paint. And this is a simple way of doing it. So I've come all the way back down, and I am about ready, I think, to let it dry. If you don't let it dry, then you'll be able to kind of blend it some with your silhouette area. But you just go at it until you're happy with it, really. Now, I have a lot of extra color on the brush, and if you want to utilize that color, you can just brush what's left on the bottom, trying to make sure you aren't going to go up where your silhouette mountains is, where your mountains are going to go. So I'm trying not to go into that area, but use some of that paint to cover the canvas. But now I'm going to let it dry. And then I'll come back and start the next section. You'll need black, but we'll do the sun or moon first, depending on what you want to do. Okay, it's not quite dry, it's kind of tacky, but we'll go ahead and take our circular hard item, and we're going to paint some white on it. And then it's up to you where you want to add your moon or sun, however you want to look at it, usually close to the horizon, or you can put it up higher in the sky, and off center is natural. So you can put it right smack in the center if you want. It's up to the child, however they want to do it. And then you just pull it off, and you should have a nice circular sun. If you don't, you can take the brush and try to smooth that out. It wasn't quite as perfect, but most of the time it is. And so that's all you want to do is put it on there, and you have your moon or sun, however you want to see that. And then what you want to do is you want to take your stick and you want to take your paintbrush, and you can water it down, or you can take a toothbrush and put some paint on it and water it down with white, and you can create stars. Now, I watered it down too much, and you'll see how I fix it. But you're going to run it across that, and it will create stars. If it globs, that's okay. We're going to play with that. But a toothbrush will do the same thing, and it might even do better. I've had both techniques work, but sometimes this is what happens. So what you want to do is you simply want to take your sponge or your brush and pat it out. And what you'll create are clouds. So if this doesn't work and you have little blobs of things, work with it. And this is how you work with it. You take your brush and you pat it out. And I'm going to go back with my sponge and even smooth it out more than that. But as you can see, you've created clouds with a mistake. Work with it. And that's also teaching your kids to work with what they've got. So I'm going to take a sponge and smooth that out even more. And you see you'll have created clouds. Just so happens to work. But you can create stars by running the bristles in white across the stick, and it will create little spots that look like stars. So that is how you do that section. You always want to work from back to front when working with acrylic. It's a little tacky, but I'm trying to get this done in the middle of the night so that my kids will have this to kind of go off of in the morning, so I'm not having to use a ton of canvases to teach. So what you want to do is you get your brush with black, and you want to start on one side, and it doesn't have to be perfect. You're creating mountains. And if you live in the Blue Ridge Mountains in North Carolina like I do, you're just bumpy. So we're just going to create some bumpy mountains. And it's not perfect. It doesn't have to be. And that's the wonderful thing about it. And that's what makes it great to teaching kids how to do a mountain range in silhouette, because it doesn't have to be perfect. So you're just going to go in and smooth that out and then fill in with black. If you don't want to do any foreground stuff, then just go back over it when it dries with complete black, and you'll have had a simple sunset or a night sky, however you want it. I think this is more of a night sky with a really bright full moon. If you want to add some texture to the mountains, I would suggest doing that now. I ended up doing it a little later because I felt I didn't have, I had put the horizon too high. The higher you go, the more likely you'll need to add some foreground texture to it. So if you're going to add some texture to those mountains, do the technique that I show a little later in this video right now before doing the trees. Your stick is fixing to come into play, and what you'll want to do is you'll take your stick and you'll then want to apply paint to it, and then you'll press it onto the canvas, and I'll show you that here in just a second. You can do this with a seascape if you want, but it gets a little more complicated doing palm trees. I did this when I was learning about my first acrylic painting in high school. So I'm going to clean that white off of my stick. And then I'm going to use my stick and I'm going to paint some black on it. And how you press on it, you can use your fingers or you can use the paper towel. But you're just going to put some paint on it. And a stick allows for more of a natural looking flow, and it's easier on a child who may not have the fine motor skills to do a fine line. So this kind of helps them. So there's one, and then we'll do another one. And this is such a really easy kind of painting for a child. So what you'll want to do is turn the stick onto the other side, apply some paint to kind of give it a lean on the other direction, and put it on the other side. And you just want to either press it down with the paper towel, or you can press it down with your finger. Now here is where the toothbrush comes into play, and what you're going to do is just dabble it a little in the black. And this is real delicate. You just slightly press on it, start narrow, and then move out more broader at the bottom, creating a tree silhouette. And if you're doing everything black on the bottom, you're not going to do any definition in the foreground. This is really easy. It looks good, and there's not a whole lot to it. But yeah, you just dabble it on, start narrow, move out fat. And that should get you where you need to be. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And you can see that this is moving really simple. This is a good start for children. And when I post the video, I'm going to also include at the end of the video an image of what my kids did. And they're young. They're 11 and 7, so you'll see how they did on this by this simple technique of using 4 colors. Now you can use your green, not green, but you can use your yellow and your blue, and you'll mix them and use them, and you can create highlights in the trees if you want. This is where you can add some highlights if you think the black is not enough for you, and that's easy enough. I'm going to try to get the camera and the angles so you can kind of see what I'm doing with the paints. But it's really simple, and you can see my blue and you can see my yellow, and I haven't rinsed the toothbrush. There's still a little black on there, and I'm just kind of mix them where it's not too heavy in the green, and then I'm just going to kind of lightly add some color into the trees, but you may not see it real well. It's when you add some white in there. And this kind of helps kids if they want to advance this process, they can. And you don't have to add a whole lot to a foreground that's in shadow. And if you screw up a little bit, you can just add black over it. So this is a really good starter, even if you're not a kid. Let's say you want to start painting. This is a good starter to make you feel successful and feel better about your painting skills. So it's a good place to start. And here I'm adding a little bit of white. Now this is where if you want to add definition to your mountains or hills, you need to do this first before doing the trees, okay? And that way you have more definition, and then you can work over. So again, when you're working with acrylic, you work from back to front. And try to make more plans, but I'm kind of working on the fly here. And so I'm just trying to add a little bit of definition for the moonlight. Real easy. Toothbrush, dab. There's really not a whole lot to it. and you can add a little bit of highlights to the trees, because the moonlight would add some highlights to the trees. And you can see I'm not doing much. I'm doing just some light tapping of the toothbrush, and you do the same thing with the other side, and that should about do you. Now I may add a little bit, but then show you, if you don't like it, how easy it is to cover it back up. So let's say I try to add some water or something like that, and I'm just like, ooh, that's not working easy enough to just cover it back up. So I don't think this is looking real great. I think I'm just gonna cover it back up with some black paint. But as you can see, even a little bit of that doesn't harm it at all. It looks good. So I'm just going to add some black paint, cover it back up. Don't like it too much. And that is the beauty of acrylic, which is also what I'm teaching my kids: opaque and transparent, which means you can layer. And they need to know that layering is easy, and if you make a mistake, you can cover it right up. So this is a example of a blue and pink, and I did it in vertical, and it's a little too high in the sky, the horizon was, so I had to do more foreground highlights. So the more you put your horizon up in the painting, the more you'll have to consider doing a foreground. And as you can see, a little goes a long way with a foreground. But that is how you go in and you do a really simple painting with your kids on acrylic in a night sky with a silhouette front. And if you want to add highlights or keep it completely black. But keep in mind, the higher you raise your horizon, the more you're likely to have to add to foreground. So I'm going to add a little bit more, but then I'm done. So give this a try with your kids. See how they do with it. Give it a try yourself. Otherwise, this is a good beginner tutorial for teaching your kids to paint.